Like unmarked graves, the portraits from the Holtermann collection have laid dormant in the vaults of the State Library of New South Wales in Sydney for over 7 decades. Previously, Louisa discovered the beauty, but more often, the harsh interior of her new home in Australia. She came from a background of developed cities in Victorian England, to traversing dusty but also muddy trails just to get from one town to another. She gave birth to 4 children in 4 different towns in 2 different states, and was completely devoted to the man who brought her to it. Her children didn't know any different. They were born Australians, but they soon would. From out of the dust and mud from the previous 10 years, the largest and most developed city in Australia finally beckoned her and her young family. And along with the rewards of the most celebrated photographer in Australia, Louisa was almost assured of a comfortable existence. But no sooner did they arrive in this promised land, life again would turn on the head of a pin.
The Evening News, September the 29th, 1873. Henry Beaufoy Merlin. The numerous friends of the above gentleman throughout the colony will learn with deep regret that he died after a very short illness on Saturday afternoon of inflammation of the lungs supervening upon the epidemic, a kind of influenza, which has lately been so general in Sydney. Mr. Merlin had won the esteem of a wide circle of friends by his great kindness of heart and singularly unpretentious, straightforward, and genial character. Energetic, temperate, and active to a remarkable degree, his unexpected decease will surprise as well as grieve all to whom he was known. As a photographic artist, he was almost without rival, while his talents as a writer were of a superior kind, although the want of leisure greatly interfered with his literary tastes. Mr. Merlin leaves behind his loving wife of 10 years, Louisa, his 4 children, Mary 9, Francis 7, Constance 4, and newborn Beaufoy.
Louisa and Henry had not long celebrated their 10th wedding anniversary when he sadly passed away at just 43 years of age. With 4 children under the age of 10, she was now a widower at the age of just 29. Without the support of her beloved Henry, and although her mother-in-law Anne had, in all probability, been of great assistance with the children, she too was beginning to lose control of her own affairs, later passing away destitute in an asylum. Louisa was a long way from home, with 4 little kids, and now on her own. What was there left to do? It is possible that support was open to Louisa, particularly by their close friends the Holtermanns. However, it is also possible that charity alone would not be sufficient enough to support her and her children in the long term in Australia, so her decision was made. By the following year, 1874, Louisa left Australia with her children and returned to London. Although there is no readily available shipping records of Louisa and the children's passage and year of departure, we know that it was 1874, because Louisa carried her baby just 1 year after he was born in Hill End and without her husband, into St John the Evangelist Church in Pemberton Gardens, Islington, London, and had him baptised Beaufoy Merlin. Baby Beaufoy's baptism records that he was baptised on April 19, 1874, and his parents were Henry Beaufoy and Louisa Eleanor Merlin. It further elaborates that the family was now living at number 9, Francis Terrace. Today, number 9, Francis Terrace, as it was in 1874, is located 10 kilometres from the central heart of London, and minus the car and garbage bins, it still maintains its Victorian facade, where you can almost imagine Louisa and the children entering and exiting this door over 150 years ago. Soon after arriving back in London, Alexander Graham Bell made the first ever telephone call, and Britain wasted no time embracing the amazing technology by opening the first of a few telephone exchanges. One such was the Bell Telephone Exchange at Coleman Street, London. Once again, not wishing to rely on charity, Louisa jumped at the opportunity to gain employment as an exchange operator. By 1880, Louisa, now 36 years old, had been working as an exchange operator for a number of years. But on the 1st of June, 1880, the Bell Telephone Company became the United Telephone Company, and Louisa's experience was rewarded by being elevated to the role as a supervisor for training telephonists. Unfortunately, Louisa also spent this period under the shroud of mourning, beginning with her mother the same year she arrived back in England, 1874, and only 2 months after the baptism of baby Beaufoy. She also lost her half-brother Charles Wallace Boyce in 1875, and her other half-brother Beaufoy Mortimer Boyce a year later in 1876. So between 1873 and 1876, she had lost her husband, her mother, and 2 half-brothers all, in consecutive years. But perhaps the greatest grief was still to come. In December of 1881, the Merlins were living at this home, number 32 Argyle Street, London, now the Globe Hotel, and presumably looking forward to celebrating the upcoming Christmas season. Just when her life was beginning to turn around with her new role at the United Telephone Company, and just when, it was about time to discard her shroud of mourning that had enclosed her for almost a decade, her little boy Beaufoy died in this home of scarlet fever just 8 years after he was born in Hill End. Little Beaufoy's death record signalled that he died on December 6, 1881, and Louisa was again back in black. The Merlin family was dwindling, but from the time of her little boy's death in 1881, Louisa continued to rise in prominence at the exchange, when in 1889, she resigned her position from the company after 10 years of dedicated service to take on a new challenge.
Owing to the management consequent upon the amalgamation of the telephone companies, Mrs. Beaufoy Merlin, who 9 years ago started and organized the staff of ladies belonging to the service of the United Telephone Company, has resigned, and upon her retirement, she was presented with a very handsome gold bracelet and an address, expressing the affection and high esteem in which she was held by the large staff under her superintendence. Mrs. Beaufoy Merlin has accepted the matronship of the College for Sons of Gentlemen, just established by Sir Edmund Hay Curry.
From the time of her resignation from the telephone exchange at the age of 45, the fog of genealogy sets in to obscure some facts from reality. To this, Louisa is surprisingly recorded as travelling from England to Quebec in Canada, arriving on the 17th of July 1896, and even a journey back to Australia, but the passenger details contradicts her age by 26 years. It's difficult to believe that there may have been two separate ladies who both shared the unique name of Louisa Beaufoy Merlin. Otherwise, why would she state her age as 27 and not her rightful age of 53? It's also possible this may have been Louisa's daughter Constance, who at this time was 27. However, Constance was then married to a man by the name of Frederick Latham, so therefore she should have been recorded as Mrs. Latham and not Mrs. Merlin. Anyway, as the fog lifts, the final years of Louisa Beaufoy Merlin's life comes back into focus. Between 1901, now at her rightful age of 57, and until at least 1918, when she was then 75, Louisa spends her remaining life living with her daughter Constance. Constance would become a very successful woman, and they resided in various exclusive areas of London, including number 14, Hyde Park Mansions, which was a row of stately homes for the rich and the famous. And at that time, Constance was then both. As mentioned, Louisa resided and remained under the care of her devoted daughter for 17 years until 1918, when she is next recorded in a polling district document. This location was the Chelsea Royal Hospital. This hospital was originally established over 300 years ago during the reign of King Charles II to provide a home for soldiers broken by age and war. During the 1900s, however, and in Louisa's time, it was to accommodate the elderly as a home for Chelsea pensioners. It was basically a nursing home, or as we now know it, an aged care facility. Born Louisa Eleanor Foster in Southampton in 1844, she appeared destined to marry possibly the greatest pioneering photographer in history. And it also appeared that she would be totally reliant upon the fame and fortune that he would supply, which in turn would earn her the title of Her Royal Highness, Louisa Merlin. But when the security was beginning to take shape, it was abruptly taken away. Her brave gamble to return to England with her children would eventually be the right decision, as she forged out a career on her own merits that would ultimately earn the respect of a vastly male-dominated professional world. In her later years, Louisa lived a comfortable existence in the company of her remaining 3 children and grandchildren, until such time when her dignity was open to the obvious care that she required. She cautiously stepped out of the shadow of her famous husband and became a self-made woman in a time when they, like children, were to be seen and not heard. Her Royal Highness, Louisa Beaufoy Merlin, passed away at the fittingly named Royal Chelsea Hospital in the autumn of 1920. She was later buried in the Kensal Green Cemetery in London. She was 75 years old. Okay, Louisa, you have led an amazing life. It's now time for you to rest in peace.
Thank you, my dear, and thank you all for watching my story.